Toronto gets the shows that are sort of banking and stuff like that, and we get the weird wacky X-Files. That's how we divide the money out in this country.
Now, give me a Vancouver view on the behaviour of the tabloid media and whether they are in effect tarnishing this royal wedding.
I mean, the media does what the media does, and you have to expect that we live. I mean, I said to a friend yesterday,
okay,
as we were discussing it, I mean, I think this wedding will, no disrespect to the Merkles or to the Windsors, I think this wedding will go about as well as the last time the British royal married an American.
Nick, that is pretty tough stuff, isn't it?
Well, the reality is the royal family now lives under a total microscope. It would be tough for the most perfect partner, and Kate would appear to be that.
Yes.
To avoid blotting their copybook, as we used to say, on some level. The Merkles are a very ordinary American family, and I'm not putting them down in any way, shape, or form, but all of their foibles, and I know if my daughter married a royal, they'd be looking at my drunken uncle and my auntie that doesn't.
None of us, Nick, have got perfect families, of course.
I think if this is the worst that happens, the palace will be happy and think we dodged a bullet because.
Are you serious?
Thank God they didn't look at the strange cousin that's joined a white supremacist group or what have you. There's going to be all kinds of stuff that comes out.
Well, Nick, I have to say, I don't really agree. Craig on Facebook says to me, Nick, he says, some media just love tearing people apart.
Wait for it.
It's terrible they're picking on the future princess's dad. And I'm rather with Craig, Nick, I have to say.
Yeah, but that's what the media is going to do. We know that. That's what the media always.
So why did the palace not protect him in this last few days?
Because I don't think they can. I think the palace's ability to protect the royal family or anyone connected with the royal family disappeared with the advent of Facebook and cell phone cameras. That's the end of it.
Shouldn't they have got him over to the UK?
The last generation or so of the royal family. They're not going to survive.
All right, that's the way it is. Nick says from Vancouver. Thank you, Nick, for the call. And for those that didn't get the reference, he was referring to, of course, King Edward VIII, who abdicated to marry a twice-divorced American called Wallis Simpson. So he gave up his crown for the woman he loved. And Nick says it all ended very badly. Well, I don't know. Maybe they were very happy for the rest of their lives. We will never, ever know. You're listening to The Nigel Farage Show here on LBC.
What?
And it's now 7:16. Incredibly tough week for the Markle family, and particularly Thomas Markle, exposed as having posed for some photographs with the paparazzi. We don't know whether money changed hands, and now we've got no idea whether he will lead his daughter up the aisle or not, but it looks like that won't happen. I'm asking you, have the tabloid media, with their obsession with the Markle family, have they tarnished the royal wedding that's taking place this Saturday? Or actually, is it the palace that should take some blame for this?
Very good question.
It's not Crystal Palace, folks. Buckingham Palace. Should they take some blame for this? Because perhaps they should have protected the guy and anticipated what the newspapers would do. Before I get back to that, 75 years ago today, there was a quite extraordinary historical event. I'm going to play you a piece of music and see whether you remember what it is. Well, if you haven't seen the film, the 1955, when you think about it,
wait for it,
made just a few years after the war, the 1955 Dam Busters film. Yep, it's in black and white, but I tell you what, it's absolutely superb to watch it. 75 years ago today, that raid, the bouncing bomb invented by Barnes Wallis, the 617 Squadron, led by Guy Gibson, who got a Victoria Cross for the action and subsequently was killed in the war, and they went to bomb the dams, the big dams providing the water for the industrial Ruhr. And they were dramatically successful with this bouncing bomb, breaching the Mona Dam, breaching the Ida Dam, not breaching the Sorpe Dam, which was made of a different construction, but it was an extraordinary...
Okay, I'm listening. You have my attention.
...event. But it was also an incredibly dangerous thing to do. And they were told, literally 48 hours before the raid, that rather than flying at 200 feet all the way to the Ruhr, which is what they'd practiced for, they would in fact have to now fly at 60 feet because German detection of aircraft had got better. So there were losses on the way to the dams, and in a couple of cases it was pylons, in fact, that caught the Lancasters. 133
Hey, y'all, come look at this.
33 men took part as aircrew in that raid. 53 of them were killed. 3 of them were captured. So basically, if you were on the dam's raid, you had a 50-50 chance of getting back. One of them is still alive today, Johnny Johnson.
Are you serious?
Johnson. He was a bomb aimer who dropped a bomb on the Sorpe Dam, cracked it, didn't quite break it. But I do think it's an extraordinary thing to remember. The not only massive sacrifices that those that went before us made, but their incredible ingenuity. And as I say, if you're out there, you're young, you've never heard of a dam's raid, you've never seen the film, I can't recommend it highly enough. Back to matters of this week and the royal wedding, this happy event, and I've seen signs, pub garden passes, and the wedding itself's at 12 o'clock, so people are going to be gathering from 10. And it should be a day of great celebration, and I worry that these tabloid headlines about Thomas Markle, now subsequently talk about his health, whether he's going to come, whether he's not. I worry that it has rather tarnished it. Do we blame the media for this, or do we blame the palace for, frankly, dropping the ball? I'm going to ask Anna in Maidenhead what she thinks of that.
Hello.
Okay.
Good evening, Nigel.
Good evening.
I think obviously it's got something to do with the tabloids as well, but I'm afraid the majority of the Markle family, and I think most people would agree with this.
Are you serious?
The majority, with the exception of Meghan and her mother, who has conducted herself with grace and decorum right the way through, are actually feeding the press with all sorts of gossip. Her half-sister's trying to flog a book.
Yes, and she's been described as poisonous by her own mother, hasn't she?
I haven't heard that, but nothing really would...
Hey, y'all, come look at this.
...surprise me. She seems to... she was on Good Morning Britain the other morning, and Piers Morgan really gave her a bumpy ride, and then she started... but anyhow, aside from that...
Here it comes.
There's the ex-husband who apparently is trying to make a film about a showgirl or an actress and the prince. There's a half-brother
but Anna...
something...
Okay, I'm listening. You have my attention.
And there are cannabis farmers in the family and all sorts of stuff. But Anna, I'm particularly focusing on Thomas Markle. What's he done wrong?
Well, allegedly, there were some staged photographs which were in all the papers.
Maybe, Anna, hang on, I'm going to put this to you. Maybe if the press are camped out in your street in Mexico...
Yes.
When you say things like that, you lose me. I'm like, that's a ridiculous thing to say.
OK, so I'll explain it. So racism was the building blocks for the transatlantic slave trade, a trade that was funded by the royal family, and they ultimately made their wealth off of the blood, sweat and tears off of enslaved Africans.
And it was this country...
Hold on a second.
It was this country that actually led the end of slavery.
Which everyone likes to talk about.
Hundreds of years ago, by the way.
But you also contributed to it. And
fact.
What you fail to realise is that the legacy of colonialism and slavery and British politeness play a vital role in the perpetuation of covert racism, in other words, the present-day racism that I talk about today, which is in the form of covert racism.
Well, duh.
Would you just say you've described the late Queen as effectively a true racist? And you think the country is racist?
Wait for it. Here it comes. Almost there.
Okay, so if anyone that doesn't think that this country is racist...
No, are we a racist country?
So I'm going to
Or are we
it.
a country that actually is remarkably tolerant, has extraordinary multicultural society, but includes some racist people?
Okay,
Which one is it?
So if you don't think this is a racist country, you should probably speak to Diane Abbott, the black footballers who have to contend with racism on a daily basis. Or we can delve into the 85,000 people who reported...
So you're saying because a few people...
Can I just finish,
yeah.
please? Or we can delve into the 85,000 people who reported racially motivated hate crimes in 2021, and it's subsequently gone up to 100,000.
Right.
Or we can delve into the 120,000 people who have left their jobs in the last 5 years due to racism. Or we can delve into the quarter of staff and 56% of students within higher education that have to contend with racism. Or if none of those are acceptable, I can happily show you my plethora of messages that I receive after this interview.
I do not dispute for a moment there are vile racists in this country.
OK.
I don't dispute for a moment if you trawl enough on social media, you'll find them. But I do think they are the ugly little barnacles peering out from rocks. I don't believe that they are actually what this country stands for. I don't believe the vast majority of people in Britain are racist. I don't think we're an institutionally racist country. And I certainly don't think the Queen had a racist bone in her body, which is why she's such a beloved figure in the Commonwealth.
Yeah, right.
So can I just add that, again, I said it to you last time, this country has a very rudimentary understanding of racism, often referring to overt racism as the defining factor for racism.
The problem with covert racism...
That couldn't be even more...
Right, but the trouble with covert racism is you end up with people like Meghan Markle who say, I was a victim of racism, but don't feel they have any compulsion to have to say what actually happened, when it happened, and who said it. And that is, if that's covert racism, the problem with it is there's no hard fact to support it.
But that's the issue with... OK, so firstly, I will preface my statement by saying I agree with you. It should be known. That's a fact. It should be known, and she should make a point of saying it. I really do hope that she does.
Stop it. Get some help.
But ultimately, like I said, this is about her highlighting a truth that many people are failing to acknowledge. And like I said...
All right, let me bring back Sharon.
An odd frame of reference.
Let me bring back Sharon. Sharon, look, these are pretty incendiary comments from Iman here, that we are a racist country, that the Queen effectively was a true racist. Covertly or otherwise. I mean, I find those comments pretty offensive. What do you think?
I think that, as in every country in this world, there are a sect that are anti-Semitic racist. There always will be, no matter what.
Fact.
There always will be, because there's good and bad in every race. There's always a little group of these nasty little evil people that dislike someone because of colour or religion. Those are the two main dislikes. So, yes, there is a certain minority in England that are very racist and are very anti-Semitic, OK? And I can say that being a Jew. So the thing is, it's never going to end. It hasn't ended for thousands of years. Why should it end now? But you carry on. You don't give these people a platform. You want to talk about somebody with a platform, Kanye West. He has millions of followers that follow him, that adore him, and will do what he wants them to do.
Are you sure about that?
You see, I actually think Meghan Markle...
The country isn't overall racist.
No, and I think Meghan Markle branding us a racist country and attacking the institution of the monarchy as racist.
It's unfair.
I think
unfair.
I think she
totally unfair.
She is what I would call a race baiter.
What do you mean by that?
If she doesn't produce hard evidence to support these incendiary claims, she becomes a race baiter, exploiting racism and the issue of racism to act as a kind of protective shield around her and to make herself extremely rich and famous as a professional victim.
Come on now, dog.
Last word to Di Davis. Di, just as somebody who has been around the royal family for many, many years, how do you feel about the way the reputation of the royal family is being so traduced in this way?
Well, I'm appalled, frankly. Some people see racism around the corner. Racism is in Africa, it's in India, it's in every continent. And so to pick on the royal family in this way is both insulting and It's also insulting. Most of the media are very decent people. I know a huge amount of people for the last 50-odd years in the media. Most, like you and I, are decent people.
So that was a f***ing lie.
To vilify both the royals, the media, and the nation, and somehow imply we're all racist, is nonsensical, in my opinion. And I just despair that there are so many who will take the word of proven liars and then translate it into this issue about racism.
Yeah, right.
And you were around the Queen a lot on this suggestion that she was some covert racist herself. What do you say to that?